Let's get going on Lakeside.
Yeah.
Here we go. I really don't know much about this business at all,
Sure.
so I'm super interested to learn about it. But how did you like learn about it or hear? Because you acquired it, correct, or
I
bought it?
did, yeah. So I actually worked here. So rewinding back to my first job, I was in the golf business. When I went to college, I wanted to be a doctor, and through my lack of desire to be at school, it didn't turn out super good. So I decided after year one that pre med was not my chosen path. I was told by one of my golf course bosses to consider a career in turf as a golf course superintendent. And I liked the variety of the job. It was something new every day. You were part doctor and figuring out the turf diseases, part pharmacist. That was something I was interested in on how to treat the diseases. It was managing people. It was an independent position in that you were kind of your own boss. So I started looking down that path. I moved from UW Oshkosh to Rutgers University and got out of school and ended up in the golf business. A year and a half later, I decided that it was time for a change. So I left the golf business. My dad was a builder. He was working on a house up here, and I came up for a ride with him to meet some of his contractors up here. We grabbed a newspaper. I found a job at a landscaping company, and then ended up getting a job moving up here from the Milwaukee area. So it was kind of a big move to move across the state. I A month into the landscaping career, I saw a sales job at Lakeside Docks selling docks and boat lifts. So I thought that sounded kind of fun. I grew up on a lake. I was familiar with docks and boat lifts a little bit. So I got together with the owner. I got hired, and I worked here from 2002 to 2010 as a
Okay.
sales guy. In 2010, I found an opportunity to go work for one of the manufacturers that we sell for as a sales rep. And it was, I wasn't looking for a job. I kind of fell into it. The guy who was one of their reps had been promoted, and I stumbled on that job and ended up interviewing for it, taking it. And for 12 years, I was a sales rep for Flow, who's our primary brand here at Lakeside Docks. Fast forward to 2021, I was in the process of attempting to buy a dealership. And throughout that 6 to 8 month process, it kind of realized that it was sliding downhill. The sellers' demands were, the number they wanted was out of line with what the business was capable of. And it had some other components to it, some other industries they were in that I had no interest in.
Mm.
So we kind of realized that deal was done. And about a week later, the previous owner here's son Andrew called me and said, "Hey, my parents want to sell. Would you be interested?" And we put a deal together ridiculously fast. Their terms were fair. Like everything was right.
Yeah.
You threw 1,000 piece puzzle up in the air and it fell on the ground like in position.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. So it was, it's 2 miles from home. When I left here in 2012, I never left Minocqua. This was home. I could live anywhere. So it's literally 2 miles from my house. I knew where the copier paper was. They're the number one flow dealer in the country. Like
Mhm.
all of these things, all of these positives were far too good to ignore. So,
Yeah, and you already worked here too,
and I had experience. I knew the lakes. I knew the customers. It's fun.
and you knew the product too because you work for Flow, so
For
you kind
sure.
of knew the whole
A
insides.
20-year history with the product line, and essentially a 20-year history with the company in general, because shortly after I left, I actually became their rep. So,
Mm.
so
Okay.
it's an intimate knowledge of the business. Obviously, it yeah, September 1st of 2022, we took over.
Gotcha.
So
It's interesting how that works. I've talked to a few other people, and it's been the same thing. Like I always thought that there was like a website you could go to that you can look for like businesses for sale or
and
something.
you can,
Yeah,
those exist. Usually, the ones that end up working out, in my experience, were businesses that you knew the guy, you knew the owner, you had a connection, you
exactly.
knew their story, they knew you, and that was the big thing when we put this deal together. We weren't some strangers off the street. It was basically their family, their son, a family member, and me, a 20-year person that they knew. So
Hmm.
just made the whole deal as easy as it could be.
And you weren't out to get each other or whatnot.
No,
I know some
no.
probably ones that are selling online, like they're destined for failure and they just want to get it off their hands.
Exactly.
But this is like you knew the person, you heard about it from them, and it's
Yep.
worked out great.
You couldn't have asked for a better deal. It's just everything. They took care of us. I think they were very fair in what they wanted out of the business, and here we are. So
Did you keep most of the employees here that were
we
working
kept
already?
all of them. Yeah.
All of them. Okay.
Yep. And that was another huge thing was there was no turnover. There was no training. There was no, there was really no mass exodus when we took over. It was nothing changed really.
Okay. So give me a scope of like all the employees. I'm sure you have sales, front
Yep.
desk. Give a whole.
Yeah.
General.
So the previous owner, he was the kind of the primary sales role and some of the administration stuff with invoicing, inventory control, stuff like that. I slid into his role. His wife was the office manager. She did accounts receivable, accounts payable, a bunch of other general office tasks, and kept the business running like it should from a paperwork perspective and an organization perspective. My wife was a stay-at-home mom at the time when we took over, so she slid into that role, kind of calling back on some of her previous work history, and extremely organized person. So it was great that the two primary roles that left were filled by me and my wife. So
Yeah.
that was super easy. It's her role handles money. So it's comforting to know that it's not just some stranger handling the money. It's my wife.
Yeah.
So it's going to be done and done right. And it's just one less thing to worry about. We have sales staff. And then the service and install guys are all really young, and they do a great job for us. So.
Is there turnover on those guys a lot or not too much?
It's been, since we've had it, it's been great. Over the years, you look at the 20-year history. We had a guy that retired after he had been here. I think the business was started in the late 90s, 98, I want to say. He made it over 20 years as kind of the back shop, head of back shop
That's
operations.
huge, yeah.
And then, it seems to be every 4 or 5 years you'd maybe lose a guy and pick a new one up. But it's I would say for the most part fairly stable.
Okay.
And we're blessed to have the people we have, because it is a tough thing to it's a tough job to fill. It's not always the most fun. It's cold water, it's cold weather, it's heavy lifting, it's a lot of different stuff. So, and
the person needs to know what they're doing too, to put the docks in the right spot or whatnot. So you're selling the docks, selling the lifts, and then the person has to install it right too.
That is correct.
So it's the full
it's a full package, start to finish. You come in, we help you design the system for your needs. We'll help you through our various product offerings, find the right product. We'll design the system to match how you want to use it, and then we'll take care of putting it in. One of the big changes this year was we got back into the seasonal in and out business. The previous owner had kind of drifted away from that 3 or 4 years ago. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of equipment. Nowadays, you have to have a forklift boat or a crane boat to move these lifts. That was a $180,000 boat that we had to buy to put lifts in and out. And then you need the people to run it, and then you need the time to do it. So it was all of these things. We drifted away from it. We got back into it. But it's kind of keeping that full service aspect where if you buy something from us, we're going to take care of you. And